What's going on, Trenton Thunder fans? Welcome to Feel the Thunder, your official Trenton Thunder podcast. My name's John Bodner, and I am next to my co-host, Jeff Hurley, and we're excited to bring you another episode. Jeff, the sun is shining. The Hamilton St. Patrick's Day parade was this past weekend. The water is on at the ballpark. Things are coming together. It feels like baseball season. Spring training is in full effect. It's one of the best times of the year.
I've been here for 20 years, and the time that water is turned on in March, it's like a national holiday for Trenton Thunder. All the alumni that are listening can definitely feel for us through the off season. But yeah, it's a great time of year. Things are going to be starting in motion at this ballpark, and we're really going to be going through a heavy spring cleaning over the next week or so with our first event at the end of this month.
It really feels like we just hosted the championship game like not too long ago. And we've gone through a whole off season. We continue to talk about the ideas that we have and the promotional schedule that's been going on. And but now, I mean, the weather that we're experiencing and the spring training, that's when it really hits. When we're past pitchers and catchers, we're playing baseball, we're playing games. We talked offline about the Buster Olney tweet with the Phillies, his pick for the World Series being Phillies over Yankees. So that has our market excited. And we're just a couple weeks. You mentioned our first on-field event, but we're just a couple weeks away from Major League Baseball's opening day. Yeah,
this weather really gets people even more interested in baseball. Obviously, spring training's going on, and people can watch the nice weather. Those that get to go down, experience it. But when we get days like this, it really puts you in the mood that you wish there was a Thunder game tonight to be able to witness. But really, it's just there's going to be so much going on this month. You're going to start seeing even more predictions of World Series, just like Buster Olney. I think that would be a phenomenal matchup, great for our area. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's going to be so much, and so much going on with just the Thunder alone. We have a lot of things that we're going to release. We have things going on right now. You're going to hear more and more, so it's going to be an exciting month to as we continue on this off season.
Yeah, speaking of the releases, that we have going on, this week we kicked off a lot of our ticket and merchandise deals. So single game tickets for all 40 home games have yet to go on sale. That date will be upcoming, so make sure you're in tune with all of our social media and our Thunder Insider to get your details there. But we released our first ticket and merchandise, which is the class of 2024 jersey. Obviously, whether it's college, high school, kindergarten, wherever you're graduating
Carson might need a T-shirt.
Yeah, it's something. It's obviously an accomplishment. So we're encouraging fans to come out on June 5th. To grab that exclusive jersey offer.
And who doesn't love a jersey?
Right. I mean, they're amazing. Thunder on the front, number 24 on the back. Rep your graduating class. And then this week is going to be full of it. So Monday through Thursday, we're going to have special releases going out. These are always fun. It's exclusive items. It's limited to these packages. And we've seen this, grow in popularity in our industry.
Yeah, and it's a way, like you said, the single game tickets aren't on sale yet. That'll come later on, but it's that exclusive way to get your ticket to maybe one of those games that you're interested in that you saw on our promo schedule that's been slowly released. So yeah, this is an exciting time. I always look forward to it. It just means more and more is going to keep coming out. That means we're that much closer to baseball.
And I'll tease this too: the remainder of the ticket and merch deals all fall within June. So that's our premiere month. Tickets are going to be hard to come by for individuals, once they're released to the general public. So I highly encourage, people to get their tickets any way they can right now, whether it's through your group, whether it's through these exclusive offers, because seats are definitely going to be hard. Premier seats, especially hard to find, once individual tickets go.
And we've seen some of the artwork. We're excited. Yeah. I wish I was graduating something. I'll try and figure something out where I'm able to get a graduation jersey. But yeah, certainly a fun time here at the Thunder.
Yeah. So to transition, we had a great conversation with Gregg Caserta. Just the other day, and excited for everybody to get to listen to that. Gregg obviously being with us for a couple of years, great person, great broadcaster, really looking forward to seeing how his career continues to develop. But we talked a lot about this with Adonis in episode 1 with the history and tradition of the Thunder manager. And we mentioned a little bit with Gregg, but we didn't get too much into it. The Thunder also have a great alumni when it comes to the broadcast. There's so many names that come to mind, especially, obviously number one, Tom McCarthy with the broadcast booth being named after him. It's just another thing that the Thunder really set the tone for when it comes to our traditions.
Yeah, obviously Tom is the first one, and him being local with the Phillies, but Andy Freed and Tom were in the same booth. Andy's down in Tampa, so that certainly is a start to that tradition. And it might not just be those former broadcasters in the major leagues, but have gone on to do college sports and sideline reporting and so many other things. Josh Mauer in Milwaukee, Justin Shackle is with the Yankees. So and the list goes on and on. So we've been lucky enough, and it's kind of that stepping stone to allow these broadcasters to continue to grow. And we were able to talk to one of them, Gregg Caserta, this episode, but you've had the opportunity on a previous podcast to talk with Tom McCarthy and Andy Freed. Yeah. So it's great to hear their stories and what they experience. They have a little bit of a different experience when it comes to Thunder baseball than maybe me and you have. Mm-hmm. So it's great to hear those stories. And with Gregg, I still remember getting that call, and I'm just thinking to myself, he has such good experience. We would be lucky to have him. We had an offer out to someone else at the time, but it just worked out. And Gregg was phenomenal here for 2 years. But we had a lot of fun too. It was he was professional, great broadcaster, but it was also that fun times that we had for him in the booth and out of the booth.
Yeah, I said it to you right after we wrapped up our interview with Gregg. It amazes me, and it was the same way with Andy. It was the same way with Tom. The way they're able to tell these stories, it's like it was yesterday. They're so detail-oriented, and it shows the passion they have for their craft, the dedication they have for it. And Gregg was just a phenomenal interview. We went a pretty long time with him, almost 50 minutes, and I'm really, really excited for the Thunder fans to hear from Gregg Caserta, and absolutely going to have him back on. But
we even had a chance back when we went and visited the All-Star game in Richmond, that even one of our former broadcasters, Jay Burnham, was our craft beer
tour guide around Richmond, Virginia.
So they do more than just broadcast. They are
they're truly ambassadors.
They are.
They're ambassadors to the team, and we're very fortunate enough for a lot of our broadcasters and many staff members to continue that role after they're done with the Thunder. Tom obviously supports us whenever we make an ask. Gregg, will wear that Bat Dog rookie hat until it falls apart and Victoria sends him another one. But so really excited to get the Gregg's interview. But before we get there, just a little fun we're going to have.
Not just you.
Okay. So last week you ranked all your ballpark foods. So I figured, the next thing that we got to talk about is you've been here close to 20 years or just over 20 years. I've been here about 10, but we're also both grew up Thunder fans.
Yep.
So we have a lot of memories in the ballpark, whether it's on the field, in the stands, in the front office. We've done it, and we've seen pretty much since 1994, both of us, having a presence here. So I thought it would be fun to draft our favorite Thunder players.
Okay.
That have taken the field in the ballpark.
I gotta start going on Wikipedia.
Yeah, so there's really no rules, no guidelines to this other than we're gonna go back and forth.
Okay.
And we're gonna draft our top 5.
I'll let you start.
I was gonna ask if you wanted to go first or second.
I'll let you start.
All right, so I will kick it off, and you want to go snake, so you get 2, 3.
Sure.
Okay, I think that's only fair.
Is Ben going to keep track?
Ben's going to keep track.
I can't think.
Do all that. So Ben, when we get to 5, tell us to stop. Because we could probably talk about this for hours, but people want to hear from Gregg and not us.
Not us.
So with 1-1, there's no other way I could go. I'm a diehard Phillies fan, but my favorite player of all time is Nomar Garciaparra. He's a retired number here. but it's really one of my first baseball memories. There are other people that I have on my list that I would also really love to have, but my list would be incomplete without Nomar. So he's got to be my 1-1.
That's a good one. I'm going to go back in the day, too. I'll go 1994. I think I got to go Tony Clark, first player to hit the ball into the river. And, I and you came to these games way back. And for my first experience, he was that first player that you remember coming here in 1994 as a fan.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Tony.
All right. So there's your other one.
And
so
we'll see him. I'll even tell him he was my number one when he comes to visit the ballpark.
Yeah.
Maybe I did that.
And hopefully, a Tony Clark appearance on the podcast, can happen down the line. So it's
weather permitting.
Yeah. All right. So we're snaking. So you're up for another one.
Oh, yeah, I'm up. So I'm going to keep it in the early days as well, just because I love this name. I know.
I knew it wasn't getting back around, so it's okay.
It's got to go Pork Chop Pew, with the chop.
It's probably the best Thunder name ever.
Yeah,
without a doubt. It's probably one of the best baseball names ever.
I don't remember him. I remember him as a player. I couldn't tell you, like you remember Tony Clark on the field, and I couldn't do that with Pork Chop, but I do remember coming to games and hearing his name called, and, oh, man, I wish I had a name like Pork Chop Pew.
Right.
It's a great name.
Right.
Great name.
All right. So it's me for 2.
Yep.
And I'm going to go with another nostalgic pick. And again, I couldn't have my list without it. So I'm going to go with Aaron Judge. And the reason I'm going with Judge is my first year working with the Thunder was the 2015 season. And we all know the iconic call from Adam with the walk-off home run, opening night 2015.
Couple outs, base is empty. The pitch, swing, and a drive deep to left field. Aaron Judge has walked us off. Three to 2 in the bottom of the 10th inning. The Trenton Thunder win their home opener.
So my list would be incomplete without Nomar. My list would be incomplete without Aaron Judge. So he's going to be my second. And then
Still
this is where
ones.
this is where it gets hard because there's a lot of names that I have. So I'm just going to keep going with my trend here and grabbing from different eras. I'm going to go with Alek Manoah as my third pick. Hosting AAA Toronto Blue Jays was a very unique experience. It was coming right out of COVID, so crazy times. So a little untraditional when you think of Thunder.
What did we have to buy him? What did he buy? Corn dogs.
Mini corn dogs.
Yeah, I had to have the food and bev staff brew up some corn dogs for the guys in the clubhouse.
He would go up to the concession and come down with armfuls.
Yeah, that was actually when he made his big league debut and had his first win. I texted him corn dogs for the clubhouse. He got a kick out of that one. He actually great guy too. He got back to us.
He was great. So. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about Nomar, Judge, and Manoah.
Okay, I'm gonna go with he was a great guy, good pitcher, big league time with the Yankees and the Pirates. But when he was here, he was just that guy that just an all-around good guy. Would have conversation with you, would help you with first pitches and any community events. Jeff Karstens, one of those guys that was just a great guy to have here for the organization. And I was lucky enough after his first or second year. He's from San Diego. I was going out there for vacation and was able to hang out with him. We hung out for a night, and he was able to show me around some of the bars, and it was a good time. So that was fun. Being able to have him around, and then seeing him move on to the Yankees and Pirates and have a really good big league career as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That was fun.
Absolutely.
Oh, God, now I need a fourth. Quick turnaround. I'm going to go with centered around, it was the year after Aaron Judge, but Judge had such a big following as a prospect. So I'm going to go the next year, Gleyber Torres.
Yes, he was on my list as well.
Just another one. We had Gleyber, I think it was 2016. It was my first year as general manager, and the hype was real. He was in a trade, I believe. He wasn't a system guy for the Yankees, but he was brought over from the Cubs in the Chapman deal. Yep. So it was really cool. We had a lot of autograph people visit the ballpark to try and get Gleyber's autograph. So that was another fun one to have.
So my final two, and I have about 7 or 8 names on my list. So one way or the other, I'm going to feel like I left somebody out here, a few people left out. But I'm going to kick it back to the early years. And it may have been one of Nomar's double play partners. You may remember it better. But I'm going to go with Lou Merloni. Just another, one that stands out from, being a youngster at the ballpark. But yeah, made it as a utility man in the major league level. But yeah, Lou Merloni is going to be my number 4, and my number 5. Man, there's a lot of good names. But I think I'm going to go with somebody that I believe, yes, was on our 2019 championship team, and I'm going to go with another infielder, Hoy Park. Really got the crowd energized, the cheers for Hoy, 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 Hoy. So just, again, the memories of the 2019 season, that championship run that we had. So I'll round out my list with Hoy Park.
That's a good one. I guess is it my last one?
It is.
Ben, 5?
Yep.
Thank you. I'm going to go, I'll go back to my first year as an intern, 2004. And our team was not good, but we really had a lot of good players on that team. I don't know how they didn't win many games, but Robinson Cano was on that team, and obviously he ended up having a great career. So, I'll go Cano because it's so hard to. I was trying to think of, I'll probably get down to my desk and be like, why didn't I pick him? Why didn't I pick him? Why didn't I pick him? So it's a good challenge. This is a good one.
It was tough.
Not as good as the ballpark food, but it was good.
Yeah, there were a couple other guys. Jake Cave has always stood out to me.
Cave.
Especially now that he's been with the Phillies. But he was always fun. The Eminem walk-up songs are ones that just stick with you. Chris Gittens, another one from the championship team, just all-around good guy. But I mean, there's countless players. When you've been around for 30 years, there's a lot of guys
Tyler
that are going to be.
was here.
Notable Thunder players.
I mean, you try and think back to the championship teams, the 07, 08, 13, and 19, and I mean, there was just so many guys on those teams. Yep. I mean, and then you have Jabba Chamberlain, yep. Ian Kennedy. Yep. That was a big one. Jabba would have been a good one as well to have on the list.
I mean, so many great players that have come through.
Phil Hughes.
And
I go. So
just go in the 10th.
We need to go to Caserta, or else I'm going to keep going.
Well, let's just do that then. We could sit here reminisce all day, but here's our interview with Gregg Caserta. So looking over there, Mr. Caserta, we're thrilled to be talking to you. You're looking good in that rookie hat, advertising the brand, repping the brand as always.
I'm just happy he found time for us.
Yeah, right.
He's big time now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to introduce him as. MLB Network star, food critic, reviewer. You've got a lot of stuff going on, with your busy life, but. Gregg, I really want to start off with, are you a little bit ashamed of your Trenton Thunder past? I mean, Jeff and I were doing some research reviewing your resume, and there was definitely a glaring gap that didn't mention Trenton. So, you embarrassed by us, man?
So, in the sake of transparency, not that we had a pre-interview or a screening or anything like that, but it was brought to my attention that I might have missed a year on my resume. So I believe I had 2021 Trenton Thunder, 2022 was left blank. So if that's the case, then maybe it was just my performance in year one was really good. And 2022, I just wanted to forget like it happened, and it just kind of flushed from the memory.
So it sounds like Ben Wolverton had some editing on your website to cross off that year. That makes sense.
It's very possible.
That makes sense.
It's very possible. And, I think it was because there comes a point where I'm like, I don't want to go back into this website and have to add another year. Just building the website was a pain in the butt. And as somebody that's not really that technologically sound, it definitely took some time. But I think I could go back in and just tack on a year. It really won't be too bad.
Well,
we can do that in post.
Yeah, like we said, you're Mr. Big Time now, at MLB Network. We're seeing you all the time and seeing your success. We joke about it, but obviously we're very proud of the career that you're continuing to have. There's been we talk about it all the time, the success of our broadcast team, through the years, and you're just another example of that. So we're very proud of the accomplishments that you've had here since you left Trenton. Obviously, we're going to joke around a lot today and hear some fun stories from you. But Gregg, welcome back to your Thunder family here. It's great to see you. But how's everything been for you since you left Trenton? Obviously the fans may not be as locked in. So your time at MLB Network, I'm sure you've seen a lot, done a lot, and had the opportunity to do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it happened very quickly, where last year I was anticipating coming back to Trenton because at that point I was still only freelancing for MLB doing some smaller play-by-play events. And then in late February last year, they had a couple of changes on their roster and they kind of enlisted me last minute to do the Andre Dawson Classic, which was held down in New Orleans. It's a historically black college and university event that they hold every year. And that was the biggest event that I did for them up to that point because it actually aired on MLB Network. And my first couple of events with them, they were webcasts only. They were on MLB.com. And that's not to take away from the importance or the preparation that I put in. But when you're on the main channel, we had a Friday doubleheader. I had a lot of pressure on me to perform. And I thought it went really well. And as you guys know, I was working at the radio station at the time in New York City. I was doing updates at WFAN and CBS Sports Radio on the national side. Went for a couple of jobs with the Yankees and Mets because they're the flagship station, and came up short with both teams. And so at that point, I kind of realized, like, all right, I've kind of reached my ceiling at the radio station. But I do think that I could be doing more at MLB Network. So I put together a tape very quickly from that event in New Orleans. I sent it to some people that I knew over there and basically said, listen, I feel like I could be doing more. That event in particular was kind of hectic because there's always guests popping in the booth. You have on-field interviews with the managers. And I just thought, look at how I interact with the people coming into the booth. I felt like I was more than just a play-by-play guy at that point. I felt like I could be doing more. And the timing was just perfect because they needed people. They lost a couple of guys that previous off season. Initially they were going to bring me on for 2 days a week to host a Red Zone style show that aired on Wednesdays and Fridays. And from there, more opportunities just kept popping up. So it went from 2 days to 4 days. And by the time we got into the second half of the season last year, I was there 5-6 days a week, mostly in studio stuff. Probably did one play-by-play event for them every month, and then got an extension once my contract expired at the end of 2023, got a multi-year extension, and now I'm back full-time. So it's nice to have that kind of security because it's the first time I've ever had a real contract. Like doing the minor league thing as long as I did, you go from freelance job to freelance job. You're basically living like a nomad 6 months at a time. So to have the security to be in one place and to have a steady schedule, it's the dream job. I mean, it really is. And it's a great place to be. My coworkers there are fantastic, and it's 30 minutes from my house in Secaucus. So it really is the perfect scenario of everything coming together at the right time.
You also had a little bit of the opportunity to step into Jeff Passan's shoes this offseason. You got to break your own contract extension. Obviously, the free agency moves this offseason were slow, but it was a big breakthrough the day of your contract.
Yeah, I put a little thought into it. It's not my style. Like, I'm very much new to Instagram and I'm still not great at it. But just from talking with somebody at our agency that kind of handled the social media stuff at the time, we had a call about it. And she's like, listen, you've got to use your Instagram more. You've got to use it to promote. And again, it's not my style. I don't like doing that. Like, to me, it's just a job. I just need to know what time and where, and I'm going to show up and I'm going to do it. But we're in this world now where unless you get follows and unless you have people liking your stuff, you kind of fall by the wayside. So like I've seen it with my own coworkers at MLB. They have people that do their stuff for them. I'm clearly not at that level yet. But I felt like, all right, let me have some fun with this. And yeah, it was cool because it really got a nice response from people. Like I heard from a lot of people that I haven't talked to in a while. I don't even think I have 600 followers on Instagram, so I still have a long ways to go. But to put that together was fun. To edit it all at the end, like I said, going back to my technological insufficiencies before, I had it all filmed. I was ready to release it at 6 o'clock on some random day. I think I finally released it after 7 because I wasn't able to like put it all together and then release it the way I wanted to. So I'm still learning that aspect of it, but yeah, once in a while it's good to have some fun. Bods, you always tease me about some of my screaming rants from when I was doing updates on the radio. So now that I know that t-shirts were made as a result of that, I feel like I need more of those viral moments to happen.
Yeah, let's talk about that because that captivated the Trenton Thunder front office.
Shut up!
He knows no limits.
It's 5:30 in the morning. This fake enthusiasm is excruciating.
But
I don't want to talk about the business. So what would you recommend? I don't care. I woke up 40 minutes ago. I slept for 2 hours. I don't want to deal with it.
Hubba hubba.
You've had a few moments. Is it just that it's 5 o'clock in the morning and you really haven't had your coffee yet and you can't take it? I mean, there's been plenty of moments, where I'm in my car listening to sports talk radio that I'm doing literally the same thing, but I don't have a camera in front of my face. You do. Obviously friends and family are going to be reaching out to you, but what was the overall feedback of, that little outburst, as you called it?
The one thing that stands out, well, there's two things that stand out. One is you constantly beating me up for that. You, I think, had more fun with that than anybody, Bods, which was funny because I would get reminded of that from time to time. But I remember that morning my mom texted me and she's like, are you okay? Like, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, like you drum it up for the radio.
Yeah.
Like with TV, like you said, like there's a performance aspect of it, but like if you're calling a game, you're calling a game. If you're in studio, you're going from this segment to this segment. Like there's not a lot of performance that goes into it. With the radio show that I was doing, I was playing, I don't want to say a character, but like you feed into certain things sometimes. And that particular day, there was some truth to it. There was a guy that worked there that annoyed the hell out of everybody. And he was annoying me that day. But I also had a lot of frustration working at that radio station because I was still working there. And like I said before, I got passed over for jobs with both the Mets and Yankees. So like my boiling point there, I loved working on the show, but like all the other stuff that was going on behind the scenes really made me mad. And I felt the best way to do that was to bring it to the radio. To me, honest radio was always the best thing. So like, I listen to Howard Stern. I listen to Opie and Anthony. Those guys always railed on management, and I would do it in a certain way. I would never address it directly, but I kind of funneled my actual anger into something that I thought would be entertaining, and sure enough, I got T-shirts made out of it. So clearly it worked.
It was entertaining for us. I will say that. We enjoyed seeing it.
And then my other favorite one was, I believe it was about Anthony Rendon. Correct.
Rendon.
Yeah, that was a great one, and he's been in the news recently. So to get a little bit of baseball talk in here, obviously baseball players go through such a demanding schedule, but Anthony Rendon has really been under fire since he signed the large agreement with the Angels. You have a demanding schedule. We have a demanding schedule. We know what the sports industry, and then obviously these guys on top of it. So what is your opinion on what's going on with Anthony Rendon and his current situation with the Angels?
I go back and forth on it because initially I was like, man, this guy just can't help himself. Like ever since he left Washington, he was the World Series playoff hero. He has a career year and a contract year. And at that time, he really was one of my favorite players because I don't think people really knew about the off the field stuff, that like his heart just hasn't been in it. Jonathan Papelbon just came out with something recently where they were teammates in Washington, and Papelbon said, like, being in that role, end of my career, I would see guys go in and out of the training room. And he basically said, I knew this guy was locked in on a certain day. Most guys are locked in on days, but then there's times when you leave the training room and you're like, I just don't have it. And so Papelbon said, like, the one guy that like was never really there was Rendon. Like he just got away with pure talent, pure athletic ability. And I always liked the guy. I thought, power hitting third baseman, great glove. And then he goes to Washington and you kind of see what he is. He's just the guy that I do respect the honesty. He said, like, this is not something that I'm passionate about. This is a job. This is what pays the bills. This is how I support my family. And I mean, he can support 100 families with the money that he's made. If you're an Angels fan, you're probably furious. If you're a teammate, I don't know how thrilled you are. I do appreciate the fact that he went on a smaller show and was very honest about it. Like I thought that was refreshing, but it kind of just opened a window into like, all right, there are guys, believe it or not, that even if they're making 35, 36 mil a year, they don't really care. And as somebody that's kind of always put my heart and soul into everything that I do work wise, that's, I don't want to say a slap in the face, but I do think it undermines people that work really hard to get to where they are. So I do see both sides of it. I understand why there are people that really have an issue with it. I also understand that there are people that go, who cares? Like, I see both sides of it for sure.
So, Greg, you've had a great career so far, and you're obviously still, probably at the front end of your career. But so let's rewind the clock a little bit. Did you know that this was always going to be your path? Were you a, 11, 12-year-old sitting in front of your TV broadcasting MLB The Show games? Like, when did you realize that you had the talent for this and knew that this was going to be a career option for you?
I didn't go back that far. I always tell the story that in high school, I think it was after my sophomore year of high school, my mom found a newspaper ad for the Bruce Beck and Iron Eagle Sports Broadcasting Camp. It was a 5-day camp during the summer at Montclair State University. My mom said, "Hey, I think you should do this." And I was like, "No, I have no interest." And then she's like, "All right, you're not doing it this summer, but next year I'm signing you up." And I just said, "Yeah, okay, fine." And then I went and I did it. And I remember, kind of doing some very preliminary stuff. Like you would write a sports report and then you would sit at a desk and deliver it. I remember the final thing that we did that year. We went to a Newark Bears game at the time, and we were able to call a couple of innings of a Newark Bears game sitting in the seating bowl into a tape recorder. And I remember at that point being like, all right, this is fun. I like this. And then I went back a second summer to the camp. And that's when I kind of realized, like, all right, this is what I want to pursue. I applied to 6 or 7 different colleges. Fordham University was the only one I wanted to go to. And I wanted to go there because they had a great radio station and they gave you the opportunity to get on air. When I got there, you're basically an intern. You do a little bit of everything, behind the scenes stuff. All your broadcasts are done at the time into tape recorders. And then you would send it to your boss and he would critique it. And eventually you would hope that as, let's say, a sophomore or junior, you could get on the air at Fordham and do some of the bigger sports: football, basketball, baseball, softball. I did my first football demo as a freshman, standing on the roof of the press box, and I did it into a tape recorder. I don't even remember who I did it with, but I did the first half of that game. And then a short time later, we did these weekly workshops where we would have industry professionals come in and critique our tapes. And I remember Dave Sims, who's now the TV voice of the Seattle Mariners. At the time, he was doing Sunday Night Football on the radio for Westwood One. And he listened to my first ever football demo. He goes, "This your first one?" "Yeah." "You're a freshman?" "Yeah." He goes, "Keep at it." And that was kind of the first thing that I needed to hear, where it kind of gave me the confidence. And listen, with the minor league thing that I did, it's not something that a lot of people have done, to do minor league baseball for 10 plus years. I always reference living in 6 states in 7 years at one point. That was a different path, and there were certainly a lot of bumps along the way, but there were these mile markers in my career where I was like, yeah, I got this. Like, it clicked one day in 2015, and then it clicked again in 2019. And so my mentality was, I certainly have the talent and the skills to do this. I just never thought I had the luck or the timing or the break that needs to come with it. And, I was lucky enough that I waited long enough and things broke the right way. And now here I am. Certainly not where I expected to be if we had had this conversation 2 or 3 years ago.
So you're going through Fordham and you're doing some of the games, but you're coming to the end of your Fordham University career, and now it's time to start looking, like you mentioned, a minor league baseball career. It seems like that was the path that you wanted to go into. Take us back to how that first started, what your process was, how many demos you're sending out, and then your minor league career. Because I see, except missing Trenton, that you have, like you mentioned, a nice roadmap. But obviously John and I, we sit here and we see a lot of emails come in of broadcasters interested, and I applaud them for being aggressive and sending their demos and their resumes. You're a kid in college. What was your process, and how was that process for you in terms of finally latching on to a minor league team?
I got a late start with that because there were guys, and it's happened, you notice it even more now, where you see guys that are in college, and a lot of times they get summer jobs calling games for summer collegiate teams. That was something that I should have done when I was in college, but I chose not to. Like, I was living in New York at the time. My apartment was in the Bronx. I was living with my college buddies, so we would live at Fordham, and I would work at the radio station. I was there a couple of days a week, and then I would intern at, let's say, ESPN Radio was one of my internships. So, like, during the summers in college, when I should have probably been starting to do baseball, I wasn't, but I was working. And so my first baseball job wasn't until the year after I graduated college. That was 2011. And I kind of got a late start in the hiring process. Like, at the time, I didn't know what the window was for minor league baseball. I was hoping to get a job in the Cape Cod League. It didn't happen because I don't remember, like, I remember talking to a couple of teams, but for whatever reason, things didn't happen. But then somebody said, well, there's this other league in New England, the New England Collegiate Baseball League. And that's when I got my first job. And from there, I ended up in St. Paul, which at the time was independent. They were probably the premier independent team in baseball. And then that really jump-started me into affiliated ball because at the time, it was the Gold Clan group that ran the St. Paul Saints, but they also had other teams, one of them being the Hudson Valley Renegades. Through the ownership group, the Renegades were looking for somebody in 2013. That was my first year in affiliated baseball. So that's 2013. That was short season at the time. And I remember after that thinking, okay, I need to make a jump to do more games. Like, 76 games in a New York Penn League schedule was fine, but I felt like, I don't know if this was the right mentality, but I felt like I should do what the players and the coaches should be doing. I should be climbing up the ladder the way they are. I remember going to the winter meetings that year, and I remember meeting Tyler Murray, who's now with the Worcester Red Sox. Really good broadcaster. He was in the Florida State League at the time, and he goes, hey, look at Port Charlotte. I don't really know what their deal is, but they might be looking for a broadcaster. And when I reached out to the GM there, this was actually around the time I first came to Trenton to interview for the radio job in Trenton. Hudson Valley, no, beg your pardon, the Charlotte Stone Crabs needed an answer from me. And the GM told me on my first phone call, he's like, listen, the job's yours, but I can't pay you anything. So I said, all right, when do I start? And that was year one with them. I ended up going back a second year in 2015 and then just continued to climb. Thunder Connection, 2016, I worked with Jay Burnham in Richmond. That was my first year in the Eastern League. I enjoyed my time there, but I also wanted to be closer to home because I was gone for half the year and really didn't get an opportunity to come back. 3 years in Reading, then the pandemic, and then even though it doesn't say it on my resume, 2 years with you guys. So I spent 4 years. How many years in Double A? Yeah, 4 years in Double A in the Eastern League. And I did want to say this while I was on this podcast that I used to hate coming to Trenton because now. Right, now it's all coming together. I used to hate coming there because I wasn't used to the radio booth being lower than some of the other booths that I was used to in the league. So I felt like I didn't really do my best when I called games there. The other aspect of it was, at least for my 3 years in Reading, Trenton used to whoop Reading. like there was a rivalry.
It was a fun
I
rivalry.
know
was.
that
It was a fun one.
players did not like each other.
Yep.
I think in 2019, the managers did not like each other. And then in 2019, Reading goes to the playoffs, gets knocked out very quickly by the Thunder. They go on to win the Eastern League. So it was like they were always like the big brother that was beating up on the teams that I was with. So like going there was always like, man, I hope we can like take a series off these guys. Like that was a big thing. Like if you could take a series off Trenton, like, all right, we got some momentum going into next week. Didn't happen very often though. So I spent a lot of time in that ballpark before I ever actually started working there.
Well, you mentioned it, so let's go back to 2019, and Reading and Trenton have a unique tie because we're about an hour and 15, hour and 30 minutes, so almost like travel partners back then in the Eastern League, and we played each other a lot. What was that rivalry like? You were in the clubhouses and on the field for BP, and you mentioned it a little. The teams, which you don't see very often in minor league baseball, because it's more, you're trying to get ready, you're trying to move up and get to the bigs. But this was almost like the atmosphere where the teams just didn't like each other.
No,
and it was
no, they
unique for
didn't.
minor league baseball.
And it was legit. I mean, it really was. I mean, you had 12 teams in the Eastern League. You would play 10 of them and be like, all right, just another series. And at the time, this was before they started doing 6-game series. I'd be curious to see what that's like moving forward because you really get tired of each other if you play a 5 or 6-game series. But you would play usually 4 against each other, and it was big. I mean, I don't want to say it was like a playoff game, but like you knew, like, all right, we're going to be up for these games. Like no offense to some of the other teams in the league, but like there just wasn't as much buzz or excitement when you played Trenton. It was like, all right, let's try and beat these guys. As you guys know, minor league baseball is not about wins and losses. It's about player development. That's what they always tell you. But I know that guys really wanted to beat the Thunder. I know that Thunder guys really wanted to beat Reading. And again, when you have it where, the coaching staffs don't like each other, I mean, for me, I thought it was great. It was great theater. It was great drama. Looking back, those were some of the most fun games I've ever broadcasted. I just don't think my win-loss record was very good in those 3 years.
So let's talk about 2020. Obviously, a really difficult time for the world, but when we look at it for our industry specifically, the canceled minor league season, a lot of furloughs, layoffs, people changing career paths. Where was your head at during that time? As you're kind of thinking about, you've been in minor league sports for a long time, transitioning the next steps in your career, the next steps in your life. Where was your head at during that period?
So the timing was strange because in 2019, I did a Phillies spring training game on MLB.com. Phillies were really cool about that. They let their minor league broadcasters come down, usually parachute in and do a game or two, like a webcast of a spring training game. So in 2019, I went down to Bradenton and called a game on radio between the Phillies and Pirates in Bradenton. It was me, Scott Fransky, and Kevin Franzen at the time. And that was my first real taste of Major League broadcasting. And I thought I did well. I enjoyed it. I had a great time, but I was like, man, like if I could just do one more. Like I knew at the end of 2019, like I was right on the cusp because I saw my development. I saw how much better I got in 2019. I felt like I was this close. And then in 2020, I was at the airport. I was at my gate getting ready to fly back down to spring training to do another Philly spring training game. And as I'm waiting for my flight, this is when everything's starting to come out with COVID. You had Rudy Gobert test positive in the NBA. I think you had the San Jose Sharks cancel a couple of games in the NHL. And while I was at the airport is when they canceled spring training. So I was seeing tweets from Passan and Rosenthal, and I'm like, well, I got friends that are down there. Like I was going to make it like a work/guys trip. But at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go home. And I circled back from Newark Airport. I came home. And that's when they canceled spring training. And by extension of that, the minor league baseball season. And it was tough. I've told this story before. I ended up working at Amazon for a full calendar year, unloading trucks. And to be honest, 2021 was going to be my last go. Like I was applying for different MBA programs. I didn't know what my plan was, but I felt like if I got my degree, I could then figure it out and go from there. And if it wasn't for Jeff throwing me that lifeline, I probably wouldn't be in the business. Reading informed me that they were eliminating my position 6 weeks before opening day in 2021. And the timing of that was not good. But fortunately, I had heard from somebody that Trenton might be looking, and I'll never forget the conversation because Jeff and I spoke on the phone, and he said to me, listen, we have an offer out right now to the guy that would have been here in 2020. He lives up in New England, though, and he might be staying up there. He goes, I can't promise you anything. He goes, if the kid takes the job, I can't really help you. But if he stays home, it's yours. And then I waited for, I don't know, a week and a half maybe. And then I'll never forget it. I was in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. I was getting an iced coffee, and I get a call from Jeff. And it really is like one of the like very major moments in my life where I answered the phone knowing that this is either going to be a yes, the job is yours, or a no, which could very well spell the end of my career. Because at that point I had even offered to Reading, like, listen, this is my last go of it. Like I'm giving it one more season to give this thing a shot. I just need one more season's worth of tape. I'll come work for free. And they nixed that idea. Jeff calls me up and says, great news. The job is yours. And also we're getting AAA baseball here because the Buffalo Bisons are coming, and they're going to be using our ballpark for a pretty decent amount of time. So not only do I get a job in one phone call, but I also get a promotion to AAA, which at that point I had never called AAA baseball. So it really was an amazing phone call. And for the first time, I was able to call games in New Jersey. Like after all this time of working in all these different states, I was able to stay home, and it saved my career, which is why even though it's not on my resume, I will be forever loyal to that organization and to you guys because it allowed me to be where I am now. If it wasn't for that phone call, if it wasn't for Jeff, I probably would not be in the business anymore.
So then the 2021 season, obviously a lot of fun here, being able to host AAA baseball. And prior to us starting recording, I said, is anything off the table? Because my favorite Gregg Caserta story, and I'm going to let you tell it, Gregg, involves Rowdy Tellez. And I'll just let you take it from there.
All right, so Rowdy's with the Pirates now, I believe.
I believe so,
he
yeah.
left the Brewers.
He's been here. Rowdy was here such a short time. I think he hit the most balls in the river, too.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah.
He was.
It was crazy.
I mean, the talent on that Bisons team, was incredible.
Incredible.
I mean, being able to watch that, for the games that we had them. I mean, Kevin Smith has been up with a big league team.
Yeah.
Obviously, Alek Manoah and the success he had. Tellez.
You don't realize.
It's crazy.
People always say, "Oh, AA and AAA." There's a difference, but you're like, what's the difference? And then you see it, and you're like, okay, there is a difference.
Oh yeah,
it's
100%. I mean, there's plenty of AA guys that you look at and you go, that guy's not making the majors, right? Like we know guys like that. They're good guys, but like you just know that it's not there. Whereas you look at most AAA teams, and you're like, yeah, 90+% of those guys, if they haven't been in the majors already, they will be. I also remember with that, like we were really spoiled with the coaching staff that we had.
Great staff.
I thought that the players took to the whole situation really well because it was not easy for them basically coming to a new place without any real ties. And I give the Bisons credit too. Like we talked about it, guys. Like we were in the front office, like how great the Bisons were to work with as a front office, the way there was that exchange and that back and forth. The Thunder Bisons, the guys had the T-shirts made. And if you look, like their record here at home that year was phenomenal. Yeah. It was a really interesting chapter in Trenton Thunder history. Right now it's the one time that there's been AAA baseball there. And it really was. The only regret I have is that we didn't get that final month with them. It would have been cool to see how that team finished out to play the full year there. But we got really lucky with some really good guys. And Rowdy Tellez, to tell that story quickly, I called a lot of his games because he was in New Hampshire. I even called his games in Dunedin when he was in high A, and I always liked Rowdy Tellez because from afar, I think he was like a 30th round pick out of high school. He wasn't a guy that had a lot of fanfare. I don't know if he was ever a top 30 prospect. And this dude could just mesh. I mean, he was a giant guy who hit for serious power. And then he's with us in Buffalo. And I had always heard that he could be a tricky guy to get to know and a tricky guy to interview. But my interactions with him were always pretty decent. You know, like we didn't have a lot of long conversations, but I never remembered him being bald. Like I always remembered him coming up like having hair, but like as somebody that always wears a hat to cover his hair, I guess I now sympathize a little bit more. So one day I'm in the booth and he takes his helmet off in the dugout and like he's really bald. Like he is like shaved down bald. And I refer to him as a cue ball, which I don't think I've ever said about anybody before or since. And then after the game, I'll never forget coming down to the front office and I'm getting ready to write my post game recap. And it might have been you, Bods, or somebody who's like, hey, Rowdy Tellez is looking for you, which that's never happened to me. In 10 plus years, I've had probably one brush up with a player every other year. You say something that they don't like, something that gets referred back to them from a girlfriend, a family member, and you always explain yourself and you realize that you're not trying to bury anybody or screw anybody. And, you usually squash it. But this was one of those rare times, the only time where the player came into the front office and goes, where's the radio guy? And of course, it's Rowdy Tellez, who's 6'4", 240 pounds. I then go into the clubhouse to seek him out, and he is not happy at all. And he used some language that I can't share here, what the F was that? And I just explained, like, listen, maybe I said the wrong thing to you. Maybe you didn't hear it the right way. It was not a knock by any means. Like, if you listen to me call games, I'm a fan of yours. And I explained that to him. Like, I was really doing a lot of damage control to be like, listen, man, I've called your games for a long time. I like you. I think you're an awesome story. Maybe I should have used a different term. And we eventually squashed it. But I'm sure if I saw him now, he probably wouldn't like me too much. I don't think he would give me the friendliest greeting. Because I remember when he and I were having it out in the clubhouse. Again, it was, I think, more respectful from me than it was from him. Like, he said what he had to say. It was almost like he was getting into an argument with an umpire. So, again, he let everything fly. Nate Pearson was standing right next to him. So I'm looking at two of the biggest guys in that clubhouse. And I think as long as you're accountable, as long as you explain yourself, then it's okay. Because I've had similar situations before. And I think as long as you show up and explain yourself, I think that's the biggest thing. I think if I had ducked him or tried to weasel out of it, then that would have been a problem. But I said, listen, man, I goofed up. We're not perfect. You say a lot during a course of a 3-hour broadcast. Sometimes there's stuff that you'd like to have back in retrospect. I didn't think it was all that bad. But listen, some guys take things a certain way. And in that situation, calling giant Rowdy Tellez a cue ball was not my best decision at that time.
So I know we're running out of a little bit of time. We still have a couple more things we want to go over with you, Gregg. But I think in 2021, you being here in Trenton and being able to do the AAA games, you also got a call up yourself. You were able to do a series with the New York Mets on radio. So tell us a little bit about that, how that came about, and what that experience was like.
So that was the other moment, Jeff. Like 2021, again, I reference you bringing me on and giving me that last lifeline. And then the thing that I think propelled me beyond that point was getting the opportunity to call those two Mets games. I knew the Mets executive producer, Ray Martell, for a very long time. He was a friend of mine. He and I worked together at Long Island University calling basketball games. And he always said, like, listen, I may need you at some point. And initially I thought it was going to be for a pre and post game role. And I don't even know why it happened this way, because it was the only two games I ever did for them. But he texted me the morning of May 5th Yeah, it was May 5th, my brother's birthday, and I was home, and he's like, "Just be by your phone today." And he's never said that to me before. And then I got to the ballpark, drove down, calls me up a little after 12 noon and says, he goes, "What are you doing June 4th and 5th, Friday, Saturday?" I go, "Well, I got Trenton Thunder games. But why? What's up?" He goes, "You're going to be calling 2 Mets games." And I was like, I couldn't believe it. And I never really expected it to be that. I thought it was going to be, all right, I'll do some pre and post, and at least I get that on tape. And then you couple that with the Thunder play by play, and it puts together a nice reel. And when I called those 2 games, it was like, all right, I finally made it. Like I knew of other guys that have had the opportunity. I was on cloud 9, and I really thought like, all right, this is the greatest summer of my life. And then when the off season came about in 2021, I just had this like I crashed almost. Like I was on this high from doing these 2 Mets games. But what helped was that a family friend who works at MLB Network, huge Mets fan, he was listening and he texted me and he goes, "Dude, unbelievable." And I think that's kind of what got me on their radar because that July, later July, I got a text from somebody at MLB saying, "Hey, would you like to do this event for us? It's the RBI World Series down in Vero Beach." Now, I had been in contact with MLB Network, but I was always told, yeah, just keep getting reps, keep getting reps. And you hear that so much that it's like, all right, they're just kind of giving you lip service. I actually had to text the guy to be like, is this a joke? Like, you're really asking me to do this event for you guys? And it was for real. So I went down to Vero, I did this event. And if it wasn't for my producer down there, Chris Bracey, I don't know if I would have continued on at MLB because I poured my heart and soul into that game, realizing that you never know when these opportunities are going to pop up. If you're ever going to get that opportunity again, treat everyone like it's a game 7. And it went well. Looking back 2 years, I think the product has gotten much better now in terms of what I'm putting out there. But if it wasn't for Chris Bracey, he really pushed hard for me. Like he went back to his bosses and said, "Listen, I think we've got something here with this guy. I think that we can get him in on the ground floor, kind of develop him, kind of mold him." And that was really the first thing I ever did with MLB. So, again, it's 2021 is really the turning point of being on my way out, having one foot out the door, getting the call from Jeff, doing the Mets games, doing the first event with MLB, and just making the most of those opportunities. Like I can't say that I am the most talented broadcaster in terms of how I sound, what I say, what I look like, but I've always said that I won't be outworked. Like I will always prepare for every game like it's the only one I'm going to get a chance to do. And I think that's what's allowed me to be successful is, to take those opportunities and to not be nervous because I know that I'm as prepared as I'll ever be and that I don't really leave any stone unturned.
Well, I think we're definitely going to need a part 2 to this interview. I think we could sit here and talk to you and catch up.
Radio
all day.
Guys just can talk and talk and talk.
But we want to be respectful of your time, Gregg.
You got to realize I miss it, man. Like being on the other side now, being on TV, it's like, all right, I've got to pick my spots to get in and out. I come from a tradition of just rambling for 3 hours, so the fact that I get to do this is like.
But it's a good ramble. It's a good ramble.
I think we could sit here and talk baseball and obviously we could talk about Gregg all day long.
What we'll do is we'll continue this another day over a pint.
Yep.
Gregg signed the multi-year extension, so he's going to pay.
Exactly.
Hearing these stories, it brings back, because we used to talk about this back in 2021 and 2022, and obviously you moving on to MLB Network, which is fantastic. It's great to see your success, and we're proud of you. And you're always Thunder family. We appreciate you wearing the Thunder merch as well and promoting our store. So we appreciate it. It's always great hearing stories from you, Gregg.
Hey, Gregg, we have a surprise for you in just a minute, but while we get set up for that, just real quick, tell us what's going on right now, what you've got coming up. If you want to share your social media, I know you're trying to grow it as we talked about at the beginning. So what do you got coming up, and where can people find you?
So the socials are now Gregg Caserta MLB, Greggg, and then one S in Caserta. Usually everybody flip flops it. There's usually one G, two S's. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I don't call it X; it's still Twitter. But I use my Instagram a lot more. I used to be a prolific tweeter, but not as much these days. Right now in March, starting Sunday, I will be in studio 5 days a week. Basically, I'm what you call the bridge show guy. I get you to the start of the first spring training game at 1 o'clock. That game ends, and then I get you to the start of the 4 o'clock game out in the Cactus League. So, depending on the length of the game, if the game ends at 3:30, I will fill for 30 minutes up until first pitch of the next game. I love doing that because it allows me to do a little bit of everything. It gives me a chance to like sit behind the desk and really develop that skill set, which is probably where I'm least developed because I just haven't done it the most. And then starting the last Friday of the month, I think that's the 29th, I'm back on Strike Zone every Wednesday and Friday. That's from 7 to 10. That's our Red Zone style show that we do for DirecTV and certain cable outlets. And then 2 or 3 days a week, I'll be hosting Big Inning, which is our real, like, that's our baby. That's our real Red Zone style show. We show 4 games at once. I'm basically like the Scott Hansen of that, where I get you from game to game, at bat to at bat. The premise being big players, big moments, big inning. So you're going to see every Otani at bat, every Judge at bat. And if, let's say, there's a boring game going on, let's say you got the Tigers and the Guardians. If the Guardians have the bases loaded in the 8th inning and they're down a run, we're going to show you that too. So it's, I think, the new way that people are consuming it and watching it. I love hosting it because it's 3 hours nonstop. And like you guys just alluded to, I have no problem talking. So it's a fun one for me to do because I can pick my spots to jump in, sprinkle in a little play-by-play, but really just be the traffic cop to get you from game to game.
You made Liz smile behind the camera hearing those memories of MLB Network.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we hope everybody checks you out, Gregg. I know we do. Like we said, we're thrilled with the success of your career. We're very proud of you. We're looking forward to catching up more. We're definitely going to have you back on the podcast. But we did promise you something special here. This is top secret information that we're about to share with you. The Thunder fans don't know. That they will be finding out in the not so distant future, but you're the first person outside of the walls to get to see and experience what we've got cooked up. Obviously our front office staff works very, very hard behind the scenes during the course of the offseason, as you know. We've got something special planned for this season. So, Liz, I'm going to ask you to turn off all the cameras. We don't even want this content captured. This is for Gregg's eyes only. So
I feel like I'm seeing it for the first time. I'm excited.
So, Gregg, this is for your eyes only. But we're going to share something with you here that we're very excited about, and I think you're going to like it. And I think the Thunder fans are going to like it too. So, let's just see. Let's get your reactions here to what we got going on. Can you see what I'm holding here?
Put it up a little. I think I have an idea.
Liz,
put it up a little closer.
A little bit?
Sure.
Okay. I got it.
So he's got a big smile on his face, obviously, with the cameras off. There is no video here, but Gregg, you think the Thunder fans are going to be pretty happy with what you're seeing right now?
Yeah. Yeah, because I look at it as like, all right, would I wear those? And the answer is yes. Yeah, I have a hat like the one. I don't have a hat like the other one. You guys nailed it.
Liz is going to hold up one more thing.
We got one more thing for you. Like I said, a teaser went out this past weekend, so the fans have a little bit of a glimpse.
Now I understand because I had a question about. Yeah. Now I got it. Okay.
So this will be coming soon for Thunder fans. So Obviously they got to stay locked into our social channels. But we're really excited about this. Like I said, Gregg, you're the first one laying eyes on this. So.
1 out of 10. What
1 out of 10. How are you ranking this?
So I mean, I always say it's hard to give a 10 to something because then you could never go up beyond that.
So you're
can
gonna
I
give us
go
an 11?
9.5? Is a
9.5?
9.5 okay?
9.5. Okay.
We love it.
We'll take it.
We
Because
love it.
I absolutely love it.
Awesome. Well, Greg, we're happy to share with you. We know Thunder fans are going to love it coming up. So
Oh, yeah.
they're going to have to keep in tune with all of our social channels. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see you in it for sure.
Not about it.
That'll have to happen. But Greg, again, thank you so much. For your time today. It was great to catch up with you. Like Jeff said, you're always a member of our Thunder family. Super pumped to watch you on MLB Network, see where your career continues to grow. But hopefully you're out here at the ballpark this year. We can see you, catch up in person. But good luck the rest of this spring. And, thank you again for chatting with us a little bit.
Always, like I said, when Jeff extended the invite, I was like, yeah, I've been waiting. Like, I want to get on there, Like I know you guys are
Episode 2,
doing
man.
Episode 2.
We're so sorry.
I was ecstatic. I love you guys. 2 very, very special and important years. I love you guys, and yeah, to be reminded that I'm always a part of the family. It's like I know, but to hear it is always special. So. I love you guys, and I'll definitely be seeing you sooner than later.
All right, thanks, buddy. We'll
We'll
talk
see
to you soon.
Good luck this year.
You got it, guys.
The Feel the Thunder podcast, the official podcast of the Trenton Thunder, is produced by Liz Sikorsky and Ben Wolverton and recorded live in Trenton, New Jersey. For information on tickets, promotion, and all things Thunder, visit TrentonThunder.com. Subscribe to Feel the Thunder on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find your podcasts.